Janobi, are you online?
Yes, Bajo.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
I think Tribeni is online also. She's. Hello?
Yes.
Tribeni, is she online?
I don't see.
Is she online?
No,
Yeah.
she hasn't joined. She hasn't joined.
Okay. I think just after 1 minute, they have just, yeah, it will start now. So. I think he had joined. Dr. Das, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
He's connecting to
the audio. Yeah.
মই পিছত ফোন কৰিম হা মিটিং এখনত আছো
I think Baban can go ahead. Archana? Hello? Archana, please unmute. Archana, please. Yes. I think
we still have 5 minutes to go, Baido.
Yeah, let him just show the, the banner and all.
Okay.
To go ahead.
This is just to confirm that am I audible? This is Professor Apurva speaking.
Yes, very much. Khub bhalke khunisu.
Thank you.
Khub bhal khunisu.
Sure.
I think Dr. Rambhus has also joined.
Yeah, I have seen him.
Yes, good evening. I have already joined.
Good evening, Dr. Bhuj.
Good evening.
Good evening and namaskar, Dr. Bhuj. I'm Bhagavati here.
Namaskar. How are you?
Fine. All, everything is fine over here.
Okay.
Mhm.
Dr. Vuj, as fine as can be expected during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Definitely. We all have to.
We have all become kind of, virtual friendly now.
That's true.
And we have to also go along with the pandemic. No way out.
Right.
Yeah, adapting to this new normal or what?
Yes, very much, very much.
Yes.
We are already in new normal.
Hmm.
Is it 7, Archana? I think.
Just 1 minute to go. I have
Okay.
already informed Baban to start
Okay.
exactly at 7 o'clock.
Okay. So it will be flagged up by the anchorer, Mandira, by welcoming all.
Mm.
Namaste. It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome all dignitaries and participants on behalf of CTEF Assam chapter to this webinar on environmental awareness, Save Mother Earth, organized and hosted by CTEF Assam chapter with technical support of Gratia Technology Private Limited, Guwahati. We are indeed delighted to have you with us in this webinar and appreciate the effort made by you in taking the initiative to be present in this event. We shall begin today's proceedings with the state anthem of Assam. May I now request Gratia Technology to play the video. Now I invite Professor Nilima Bhagavathi, International Secretary General, CTEF, and Chairperson, CTEF Assam Chapter, to present her welcome address. Dr. Nilima Bhagavathi has been the heart and soul of CTEF Assam Chapter and the main thrust behind the events organized in this area. Professor Bhagavathi, Emeritus Professor, Gratia University, retired in 2015. Professor Bhagavathi is a national awardee for her contribution in the field of education and research. She is a Commonwealth Fellow Awardee 2006 and winner of National Best Teacher Award. She is also CTEF Kerala Chapter's Best Emeritus Professor Educator Awardee of 2019. With these words, with a very short introduction, I invite Professor Bhagavathi for the welcome note. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mandira Bordoloi. Shubha Sandhya aru hokoluke mor namaskar janaisu. Good evening and pranam to all. On behalf of Council for Teacher Education Foundation and Council for Teacher Education Foundation Assam Chapter and Gratia Technology, our partner in the area of technology, we welcome you. We welcome you to this national webinar, which is being organized on a very pertinent theme, a very need-based theme today. In fact, let me just brief you a little bit about CTEF. To start with, CTEF, Council for Teacher Education Foundation, it is the brainchild of Dr. Gulab Chaurasia, who was an eminent educationist. He was a teacher educator, a global teacher, global thinker, an administrator, and above all, he was very much associated with the educational policies and educational policy implementation in the country. It was he who sowed the seed of CTEF. Earlier it was known as CTE, Council for Teacher Education. From 2015 onwards, it has become Council for Teacher Education Foundation. And just with a handful of stalwarts from the field of education, he started the beginning. He flagged off the beginning. And today, Council for Teacher Education has 23 chapters in the country, and we have 3 overseas chapters in Nepal, in Dhaka, and in UK. So let me just brief you a little bit what we are doing in CTEF. CTEF, in fact, the prime objective is to develop teachers based on competency, based on resourcefulness, and skillful teachers. In fact, to make them very, very competent teaching professionals. With this prime objective, the Council for Teacher Education Foundation, it undertakes in all the chapters equally in the country and overseas professional development programs. And the professional development program, it varies. Like, say, we have teacher exchange program, we have seminars, we have conferences, we have interactive sessions, we have publications, journal publication, global, the research journal, and also we hold and undertake lots of activities for the student community along with the teaching community. So right from 2020, we, along with the pandemic going on in the country, we are not sitting idle. We are into the virtual field now, and in 2020, the entire year, we conducted activities both for the teachers and for the student community. 21, we started off with number of webinars. We started with global conferences. And in fact, from July, the second phase of our webinar series, we have started from the month of July, and today's webinar is the 5th of the second series. And next, for the 22, we are again chalking programs. In fact, our pipeline as how we can give service to the teaching community and the student community in the country. Therefore, this organization, I am proud to say that it is the leading organization in the country. It is the leading organization, in fact, because we have more than a huge family, let me say, a huge family. We have more than 12,000 members. And besides that, all the members, between all the members, we have excellent network. So it makes us very cohesive family, right from the north to south, from east to west in the country, and the other 3 international chapters. Now, when we talk about, say, Council for Teacher Education, I already told you that it is a leading organization in the country. And even in pandemic, we are trying to do lots of works. But one thing we are giving very much stress right now is the implementation of the national education policy and its massive awareness in the country. With that idea, all the districts which we have in Assam, they are undertaking various programs where the National Education Policy 2020 has been given high focus on it. Assam chapter was established in the year 2001. And since then, we are not looking back. We are vigorously, dedicatedly working, and we have excellent team members, both in the district and both in the state. Therefore, it is making us a little bit easier to go ahead with different programs from time to time. And also, I'm proud to say that CTEF Assam, we were given the best performing chapter in the country in the year 2020. So this is a sort of motivation to us to work hard, to us to work more vigorously, to reach all the teachers of the state, right from the lower primary to the higher secondary, and including teacher education. So these 23 chapters, I do hope all are really sincerely doing work only with the motive to give service to the nation by developing skillful, resourceful, and competent teachers. Let me come to today's theme. Today's theme is very much aware. Everybody knows we are all talking about the environment degradation. We all know what is happening. We know all about the climate change which is going on. The forest, we all know what is happening in our own state and in other states as well. What is happening to the rivers, we all know about it. But we have organized this particular webinar to make a massive awareness by inviting 3 wonderful, brilliant resource persons so that they can make us more enriched with knowledge how to go about, how to reach our teaching community and student community more with the knowledge of saving the Mother Earth. What or which way we have to go forward to save the Mother Earth, because all of us know we have no other planet to migrate. We have to do our best. We have to aware of ourselves. We have to reach all people from the bottom to the top to be aware and to do our best to save the country, to save the world, in fact. Now, coming very briefly, because the time is also very constrained for me for giving the welcome address, we have, I mentioned, 3 wonderful resource persons. These 3 wonderful resource persons, first of all, I should thank them for giving their time, sir. We had another resource person with us, Dr. Pranjit Sharma, is assistant professor, Department of Geography, Mangalore College, but he is not keeping well. So he sent me the message due to his voice problem, but he is joining. I'm surely he is joining in this webinar, and he is here. I welcome you, Dr. Pranjit Sharma. I welcome the entire family members of Gratia Technology. I welcome all the family members of Council for Teacher Education Foundation. I welcome all the live members, all the viewers, and the student community with they are joining us today. With these words, I have strong belief, which I should express, that this is going to be a very impactful webinar, and we are looking forward to hear the wonderful, brilliant resource persons today we have. With these words, pranam again to all of you, and let us go ahead with the program. Over to Mandira Bardoloi.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful, warm welcome, and also elaborating on the working of the CTEF in general, and also specifically about CTEF Assam chapter. Now I invite Dr. Jahnabi L. Barua, Secretary, CTEF Assam, to elaborate on the concept note of the webinar. Over to you, Janavi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mandira ma'am. Welcome you all and namaskar to all of you. Good evening. Our respected resource persons, Dr. Ram Bose sir, Dr. Vibhak Talukdar, Professor Arup Kumar Das sir, Professor Nilima Bhagavati Baidu, and the large members of CTEF, dear students, dear viewers. You all know that today's topic is environmental awareness and safe Mother Earth. Our Earth is the only planet with a continuity of life, so it becomes more and more important to gather a sense of urgency of serving our Mother Earth from all sorts of planet-harming activities. Our Mother Earth needs to be saved as our survival depends completely on this planet. It is our responsibility to raise awareness about saving our Mother Earth. Earth provides every resources for our livelihood. Our planet-harming activities are resulting in causing an irresponsible damage to the environment, which results in degrading the condition of this planet. By taking care of this planet, we can improve our well-being, as a healthy environment will help in improving the quality of our life. It is our collective responsibility to raise public responsibility regarding the well-being of our mother. We always keep in our heart, mind, and soul that this earth is the only home we all have. And that is why it is highly important to take important measures to save this planet. It is time to part our ways from planet-harming activities and for all generations to live a healthier life. It is important to save our planet. People around the world should understand the need of a greener and cleaner planet. We all need to fulfill our responsibility and make ample efforts to protect our Mother Earth from the harming activities. Therefore, it is our duty to change our behavior and learn to improve upon our actions towards
and the United Nations. He is currently the CEO of the Mobius Foundation and is also the advising UNEP on Transboundary Landscape Initiative. He headed the Ecology Division of the UNESCO South Asia office in Delhi for over a decade and also convened the South and Central Asia MAB network. He has served as regional director of the Center for Environmental Education and assistant director of the Environment Ministry, Government of Uttar Pradesh, India. Dr. Bose is involved with several prestigious universities, institutions as guest faculty, visiting adjunct professor both in India and abroad. He is the co-founder of the World Ocean Network France and executive board member of Conservation for Oceans Foundation, United States. He has published over 100 research papers and popular articles and 15 books, and is also the recipient of many honors, awards, and recognition, including the prestigious Science Academy Medal for Young Scientists from our late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Our second resource person is Sri Vibhak Kumar Talukdar. He is an MSc in Animal Ecology and Wildlife Biology and a PhD working in the field of wildlife research and conservation since 1989. He was one of the founders of Aranyak in 1989, which is a premier NGO of Northeast India. Currently, he is the Chief Executive Officer of Aranyak. He is also the chair of Asian Rhino Specialist Group of International Union for Conservation of Nature since 2008. He is also the senior advisor to International Rhino Foundation for Asians Rhinos since June 2008. He has served as a member of the Standing Committee of National Board of Wildlife during 2008 to 2010, and also the National Board of Wildlife since 2008 to 2020. He is also a member of the State Board of Wildlife and has been involved in wildlife crime monitoring in Northeast India and also in Southeast Asia. He has published 65 research papers in journals of international and national repute and is also an Ashok Fellow. Our third resource person is Dr. Apurva Kumar Das. He has done his BSc from Durham College, Tejpur, and his master's and PhD from JNU, New Delhi. He has 20 years of teaching experience at the PG level in the Department of Environmental Science, Tejpur University. He teaches climatology, meteorology, Earth's processes, natural hazards, geoinformatics, and physical hydrology. He has been engaged in researches in the broad domain of earth science. His specific research interest areas include geomorphology, riverine hazards, coupling study between hydrogeomorphic processes and ecology, urban climate and atmospheric study. He is also a PhD guide, and his research work has been published in many journals of international repute. So that just about, this is an overall view of all our distinguished speakers today. And we are indeed proud to have you in our midst today. And we know that the participants will definitely gain from all your sharing experiences. So now, without wasting time, I would like to invite Dr. Ram Voj to take over.
Thank you so much, Archana ji. It's really a privilege and honor to be with you all. Professor Nilima Bhagwati, really grateful. And of course, Mandira ji, Biplav, Biphav Talukdar, Aranyak, I know them very well for a very long period. And Professor Das. So it's really right time to discuss about issues related to environment and sustainability, particularly Northeast India, which is a hot spot for, you name any environmental problem, whether it's climate change, biodiversity, it's most impacted. And my association also goes back to, I think, 80s, yes, a long association with Northeast, as I served in Northeastern Hill University for a very long period. And later on, during UNESCO also, we had many projects running in Northeast India. And currently, of course, with the Transboundary Landscape Initiative that we started along with UNEP and ECMOD, Assam particularly, of course, Aranyak was there in one of the meetings that 2 years back we had in Bhutan. And of course, because of COVID, this is now stalled, but naturally a lot of issues are there to be discussed, and some major projects are in the offline. I have a brief presentation. So if you can enable screen sharing, then I can just share that. That will help. I think you need to enable this screen sharing. Yeah, host have disabled it.
I think Babun can please help him with the screen sharing. Babun?
I think it's already enabled. If you could look down in the bottom.
Yeah, now it is enabled. Yes, just now it has been enabled. No problem. So this is the presentation. So let me begin with this global risks landscape. World Economic Forum meets every year in the beginning. So you can see 2020 top 5 global risks, all were environmental. Extreme weather, climate action, failure, this natural disasters, biodiversity loss, all these means if you consider water crisis, all 5 global risks were environmental, both in terms of likelihood as well as impact. 2021 again, of course, world community thought that COVID will definitely, of course, it overshadowed environmental concerns. But again, you can see the top among the 5, 4 are environmental. COVID comes fourth. But of course, risk-wise, environmental risks were slightly of lesser importance. So again, we have this climate change, biodiversity, and disasters. These are the top ranking. We just had COP26 in Glasgow, and it's basically a make or break for the planet. This summit was termed as most important, and world community was touting it as the last chance to save the humanity, to save the planet. And the irony was that Glasgow recorded hottest summer during COP26 when this was happening in Glasgow. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson described the goal of COP26 as coal, car, cash, and trees. And there have been some progress, like for the first time, countries agreed to accelerate efforts towards the phase down, not phase out of coal power and fossil fuel subsidies. Set out carbon markets, carbon trading mechanism has been some kind of agreement has been there. By next year, it will be operationalized. There is not very sufficient, but there is some progress on climate finance. And of course, deforestation, there have been agreement, and methane emission. These two were very important ones. And many countries have committed to net zero emission goal by 2050, India by 2070, and China by 2060, which will cover about 63% of global emissions. If all these measures are taken, that is expected. Let me just talk about the latest IPCC report, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. It came out with its report in August this year. And the report is very alarming. And it says that whatever changes in climate system are happening recently, they are very widespread, very fast, rapid, and very intensive, and unprecedented in thousands of years. So that's very alarming. Similarly, some 200 medical journals, including Lancet, the most prestigious one, they also did an analysis and called climate change the greatest threat to global public health. This threat is much more alarming than the COVID one. That was the conclusion. This report also came in July. Devastating wildfire in Europe, Russia, and the US, a record-shattering heat wave in northwestern North America, and extreme and deadly floods in Germany and China. These all were signs. Net zero emission by 2050, that is the goal, because that is the only chance for the humanity to cap the temperature rise by the end of this century to 1.5 degrees. And of course, it's an aspirational idea and does not actually reflect the required emission urgency. So it's not mandatory by the, as China and India, they have different goals. This is very important. Like every country was required to submit nationally determined contribution. That's their intent, what they want to do. So if you combine all those NDCs, only 1% reduction in greenhouse gases is possible. And we need almost 45%. We have actually these commitments were for a period of 2030, and where we needed around 45 to 50% reduction. So still lot of effort is needed. That is why during the Glasgow COP, it was announced that countries will revise their NDCs. They will have new and enhanced ambitions. So let us hope that by next year, when world community meets in Egypt, there will be Sharm el-Sheikh is the venue of COP27. There is much progress. Net zero emission concept came with the IPCC report of October 2018, because Paris Agreement wanted temperature rise to 2 degrees, below 2 degrees, but this 2018 report asked the countries to limit the temperature to 1.5 degrees, because if you want to save the planet, and all the emissions must become net zero by 2050. And that is what is the target now. And for the net zero, all roads to successful global clean energy transition go via India. India has become suddenly very, very important. In fact, in September, US climate envoy John Kerry visited and requested India to raise global climate ambition and speed India's clean energy transition. And of course, in COP agreement on coal, there was that phase out of coal. On the India's insistence, particularly, this wording was changed to phase out, phase down, not phase out. So there are problems, and India wants finances, and China wants level playing field, particularly in respect of human rights and technology sanctions. So these are some of the issues that cropped up during COP. But this is very important. Indian Prime Minister attended COP 26 in Glasgow, and he made this concept of Panchamrit, these 5 elements of India's climate ambition. And that will put India on accelerated track to raise their NDCs, you can say, a climate ambition. The first one is non-fossil fuel based energy capacity to 500 gigawatt. Earlier it was 400. Now it has been raised to 500. And meet 50% of energy requirement from renewables by 2030. So this is again very important, because we had 35% ambition. So that ambition has again been raised. Reducing projected carbon emission by 1 billion tons. That is also very, very ambitious. Reducing carbon intensity to below 45% until 2030, and net zero by 27. This is what Panchamrit India offered to the world. Apart from that, we have this International Solar Alliance, where India presented interconnected solar energy infrastructure, where India will take the lead. One sun, one world, one grid. This is very, very important. And also India is going to help small island developing countries, particularly they are very much vulnerable to climate change, and to help their in resilient infrastructure. India has also launched a national hydrogen mission, because hydrogen is the energy source of future. Both solar, wind, and all other renewables, they have their own issues. but hydrogen is going to become the energy for the future. So India is going to become a global hub for green hydrogen. Lot of agreements with the world, many world these leaders in this hydrogen energy was done. India is also leading. It proposed the sustainable lifestyle, a lifestyle for environment. Particularly, of course, yoga has become suddenly very popular all over the world, but lot of other Ayurveda, Ayush ministry, and all those, they put up this whole new concept of life. And of course, India requested developed countries to raise their ambitions for climate finance and easy transfer of technology. Carbon sequestration, basically this is again, lot of issues are there, but net zero is based on how world community sequester carbon or absorb emissions through afforestation before mid-century, that is by 2050. And virtually all pathways laid out by IPCC to capture 12 BT CO2 equivalent every year require huge deployment of the so-called negative emission technologies after 2050. And latest International Energy Agency report on net zero proposes carbon capture of 4 gigaton by 2050, which is huge. Planting trees potential to remove between 40 and 100 gigatons, which is too little, and that too over a long period of time. Therefore, neither it is realistic and only shifts focus away from actions to be taken to a distant future. In fact, this is the concern of most of the scientists, because whatever measures the world community has proposed, that is not going to help in near term. And climate is an emergency situation. We need to act swiftly and very fast. This is, I think, very interesting. In fact, Al Gore, his Inconvenient Truth, that made the compelling case for global warming. It won the many awards, including the Oscar and others. And this Al Gore is very active, and I work very closely with him. Particularly, we are now trying to help countries in renewable energy transfer, means easy transition to energy, and bringing countries together through various diplomatic and UN initiatives. This is also a very interesting slide. Paris Agreement, when US was signed, this John Kerry, who is now the US envoy on climate change, he signed the agreement, ratified the convention, holding her granddaughter, because this is for the future generation. Similarly, of course, India's Prakash Javadekar signed, because whatever we do today is going to impact our future generations in a major way. Another area is the biodiversity. In fact, Northeast being the hottest spot of biodiversity and natural resources. This is very important. China held this convention in October this year online, and this will be held in person in April again, April, May next year. And in fact, China wants to be seen as the global leader in environment and biodiversity efforts. That is very, very important. And global biodiversity framework for 2030, that will be agreed upon, hopefully. And actually the 30-30 goal, which says that 30% of land and coastal areas must be protected by 2030. So 30 by 30 goal. This was initiated by US, but now this COP in Beijing has adopted it. Of course, indigenous and local communities and many NGOs call this as a land grab, because if you start protecting large areas, 30% which is huge, there will be repercussions on local communities, on their land and their lifestyle. So these are issues that will be discussed in next COP of biodiversity. IPBES report, of course, this is very important. It's Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. And most important, this report, which came out in 2019, and which is, of course, the baseline for all the conservation efforts, it says that 1 million species humans are driving to the extinction, and agriculture is the biggest threats to ecosystems. So, and global response is insufficient. We need transformative action. Of course, this 30-30-30 initiative is towards that direction. Lot of efforts, in fact, throughout the year 2021 by many agencies observing, because Corona has forced the world community towards nature. And that is where whole biodiversity and ecosystem services come into forefront. And UN has also declared a decade of ecosystem restoration, 2021-2030. This year on World Environment Day, this decade was launched. And its ecosystem restoration is a winning investment. If countries invest $1, and it will bring benefit or return to 10 to 15 times. That is what attracts this whole ecosystem restoration initiatives. And there are smart restoration plans post-COVID, build back greener from COVID-19. And the next 10 years is going to be very, very crucial for the world community. Again, rest is your, this today's webinar is so important, connecting to the whole global initiatives that is happening all over the world. World Environment Day, as I said, this ecosystem restoration decade was launched with the theme Reimagine, Recreate, Restore. And this is a way to heal the nature and reversing damage caused by humans. It's a global mission to revive billions of hectares from forests to farmlands, from the top of mountains to the depth of the seas. These are right-hand side. These are some of the dangers that biodiversity and nature is facing today. In fact, in all this debate, population debate is one which has attracted very little attention. You can just see how world is growing. And right now we are closer to 8 billion people on the earth, putting tremendous pressure on our resources. And of course, China is most populous, but India is going to overtake China in next maybe 2027, that is predicted. And of course, a lot of debate is also going on how much pressure you exert on Earth, how many like footprint. The Australia have 5.2, that needs over 5 Earths, US 5 Earths. These are some of the countries. China needs 2.1 Earth, India half Earth, and total world 1.7. So even if you consider this whole population versus nature, the whole debate, you need to balance it, to make it sustainable. You have to do a lot. And when I took over this Mobius Foundation, I initiated one of the initiatives on this. These are some of the most populous countries, and how their population, like China, this population is getting reduced. India will also, like India will replace China in around 2027, but by 2050, there will be very different situation. In fact, Pakistan, Nigeria, Brazil, Indonesia, these all countries will take over. Many means they will become most populous in the world. In fact, I was mentioning, we have started this Mission Sustainability Population versus Planet campaign. And this campaign is with Z Network. And in English, Beyond, which is World is One. And in Hindi and other regional languages, it is on the Z Network. I have just brief 2 minutes. Let me just show you this.
I'm sorry to ask, but I can't hear the audio. Is it same for everyone?
Yes. Yeah, we can't hear.
Yes. So this is a year-long campaign which is happening. And of course, ecosystem restoration for people, nature, and climate. And of course, this is another campaign that we are combining with this population versus planet, joint generation restoration. As Secretary General United Nations has in his message said, making peace with nature is the defining task of 21st century. It must be the top priority for everyone, everywhere. So naturally, we are at war with nature and we have to make peace with it. And it should be the topmost priority. This is another very interesting message by Kathleen Rogers, president of Earth Day Network. She was in India 2 years back and I had interacted with her. Scientists are sounding the alarm that unless we take better care of the planet, we risk more and even deadlier viruses ravaging our communities. So this is a warning in the context of COVID. So I think I have this one again. Looking beyond the pandemic, in fact, 50 years back, Earth Day, first Earth Day, in 1972, there was a quote, "We have met the enemy and he is us." So this year's Earth Day, we realized that we cannot take the nature for granted. In fact, man is the sole enemy of the nature in a way. We cannot afford to lose pace nor focus. The challenge of biodiversity and climate crisis will still be there when COVID-19 restrictions are lifted, as we see now. The ambition of COP15, COP26 must be carried forward and built upon in 2021. Of course, it's also going to end now. Economic recovery plans must be green. And of course, world has come out with certain ambitions on climate change and need to come out with similar ambition for biodiversity and nature as well. There is greater appreciation of nature now. Nature-based solutions are the key for sustainability on Earth. Nature-based solutions, NBS, is one, I think, key word nowadays everywhere. Looking ahead, there are opportunities emerging from this pandemic, which if seized, could set the path for a more fruitful 2021. In fact, in 2019, World Community said
that we need to learn to live with nature and ensure that the future outbreak of any zoonotic diseases can be checked by our actions as early as possible. So the ecosystems plays an important role And I had published a newspaper article recently, which I related that the national security complements national security. If a nation doesn't have a good biodiversity, good process that support the environment, I think the nations will face even more insecurity from different aspects. So these are related matters. I will also talk a little bit about the wildlife crime, where I have been involved with for many years. So Northeast is very important in the sense that this is an important biogeographical locations. We have floodplains where with little rain we get flooded, and when we also have high altitude mountains where we have snow-capped mountains. So for these reasons, we need to plan differently, perhaps compared to the rest of India. Because of these altitudinal gradients, we have diversity of flora and fauna. We have big animals like elephants. And if we study the behavior of elephants, sometimes I feel they are more intelligent than humans. So these are, the knowledge that we need to, unearth or further expedite, our understanding about how the nature works. Elephants are big animals. They themselves know that they cannot spend, cannot stay in a smaller forest forever. So that's why they are nomad. They move from one place to another, and by probably 6 months times or 8 months times, when they again come back to their original place, the regeneration takes place. And now what we humans are doing are trying to address this human-elephant conflict. We are trying to restrict them in smaller pockets. We are trying to make a fence so that elephants cannot come without understanding their ecological needs. So that is where I think the understandings are very important. The deforestations in Assam is in certain parts are well documented. And the technology like the GIS technology has made it crystal clear. I think for a decision makers, just 1 minute is good enough to understand the situation in Golaghat district. You can see the satellite imageries of 1974 on the left, in the middle in 1991, and 2004 on the extreme right. And the amount of forest that has been destroyed there is significant. And these are some of the districts in Assam where human-wildlife conflicts are increasing. These are man-induced problems, and we have to find out the solutions. And there are casualties on both sides. The vultures, they are the clean municipality corporation. They clean the environment without charging any fees, any taxes on us. So these are the free services that we need to nurture so that we can keep our environment clean. There are other species like the greater adjutant stork. In Assamese, we call it hargila. They are also cleaning the environment, and we can see them in the garbage dumps, even in near Guwahati city. Now, how the landscape planning is very important. Now everybody is talking about Kaziranga. We cry when flood hits Kaziranga. But how much we understood the total landscape ecology? The future of Kaziranga depends on the future of this Karbi Anglong Hills. If the Karbi Anglong Hills that faces Kaziranga is not properly preserved or conserved, the future of Kaziranga will be in jeopardy. Now, a lot of people ask me, a flood is detrimental, for Kaziranga or for rhinos. I don't believe so. Flood is a natural phenomenon. The rhinos have been living in these floodplains for years. In 1966, when the first rhino estimations took place in Kaziranga, the population was 366. Every year, flood comes. Despite that, the rhino population has now increased in Kaziranga to 2,400. So that data clearly says that, that natural flood, although it wipes out few populations, but that is called the natural selections. The flood takes away the weaker animals and keeps the strongest animals so that we can get the stronger offspring. So these are the knowledge that we need to understand and accordingly guide our government. And nowadays the media focuses the Kaziranga flood in such a way The government thought probably let us make Kaziranga like a hill so that there will be no flood. But the species which are found in Kaziranga are basically floodplain species. That means they are highly, the grassland habitat or the floodplain habitats are suitable. But that is where again the sensitization of medias are also important, and all these things can be done in educational systems. Now, as we have seen the developmental pressures. This is the the map of Kaziranga during 1990s and 2010. You can see along the highways there are gaps. That means the continuity of forest cover with Kaziranga in many places are lost. We all realize that we may not be able to restore all of them, but we need a good planning, because just emotion cannot save Kaziranga. To save Kaziranga, we need to integrate the ecological understanding and the feasibility where the habitats can remain undisturbed. The habitat loss is an important threat, is a key threat for some of the species population decline. Some of the populations, because the habitat fragmentations, it has become isolated populations and they have no hope. The same scenario happens for Sumatran rhino, which were earlier found in Malaysia. The forest defragmentation started. There are small population here and there, and by 2017, most of the Sumatran rhino population from Malaysia is extinct. So only the Sumatran rhinos now found in Indonesia, but the same threat we have seen. Now, even in the forest cover, why we need forest cover? In a place like Guwahati where we live, as monsoon comes, our blood pressure increases because we think we know that which road to avoid. Earlier, the Jew road is one of the flooded areas during the flash flood. Of course, the GNB road. But now I stay in survey area. To cross wireless, is an issue because the new flash flood has stuck new areas in Guwahati city. So these are the so-called examples of ecological the damage caused to the forest and the ecosystems and the consequences that we are facing. So for that, I think we really need to sensitize the students and trigger some actions. I always say that just doing research on wildlife, on forests doesn't actually contribute much unless until that triggers some actions or reactions. Wetlands are an important, ecosystems which are often treated as wasteland. I have just seen, in newspapers a few days back that Assam's flood problem will be solved by creating ponds or by preserving ponds in Assam. I think that is something, the sensible things that government of India has thought. That is what we need to promote. We have seen during pandemic, the wildlife are intelligent. In the heart of the city, we have a wetland called Digholi Pukuri, which is close to High Court. And after at least 20 years, I have been doing birding for almost 30 years. After 20 years, we have seen this whistling duck came to the busiest city because during that time, nobody was around on the street because of the COVID restriction. We have seen because of COVID, even the sky getting clearer. Okay. And that is what, we all slowly started realizing, and as Dr. Ram Bhuj also mentioned in one of his slides, that humans is one of the major threat to the environment. The wildlife crime, the Northeast is having diverse, wildlife, and some of them are tradable. Like rhinos are killed for its horn, tigers are killed for its skins, bones, the elephants for ivories. So there is a growing market. And because we have porous borders with South and Southeast Asia, the Northeast has been used by the wildlife traders, as a transit route. And wildlife trade is the fourth largest illegal trade in the world. Not only that the big animals are being slaughtered, even the snakes are being killed. What they make from the snake skins are basically the bag, shoes. So if we can sensitize people not to buy, we can save these animals. There are birds trade. going on in different parts of India. Of course, it has reduced. Now the gecko, the little awareness with regards to the brush that, most of us we use. We never ask from where these brushes are being made. If you see these brushes which I have shown, these brushes are made by killing mongoose. So if we are aware, if we don't buy these kind of brushes, we can save mongoose. Because this is the only place where we have been living, we are living, and we have to live. There is no other options as of now. So for that, we need to create more awareness. With my experience, being, running the Aranak NGO for over 30 years, I have seen growing, awareness among the section of people. But I think we need to do more. And in the field of environment, wildlife, forestry, we need to encourage students to go out. If we never go out, we'll never know. So that's something, a message that we need to. We learn many things when we go into the field. From the bookish knowledge, the ecology, environment, wildlife, forestry is very difficult to understand. So that's something we need to encourage our students, to spend time, learn about how the nature works, and then integrate into their day-to-day thought process, in order to contribute towards the sustainable development, that could ensure the conservation of the ecosystems and also, reduce the impact of climate changes. What we really need is to make our mindset that we are going to contribute to achieve green and clean environment. That mindset is very important. And for that, we have to care and we have to share. As I have been, speaking about that, students are our important target audiences. And every year, we get new and new batches of students. So somewhere I think we need to work more. The new educational, policy and all other things, we need to prioritize the need to incorporate environmental contents so that, we make our future generation environmentally conscious and our developmental planners are more equipped with ecological and ecosystem-based knowledge to plan the developmental activities which will be least damaging to the environment. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Vibhag Kumar Talukdar, for reiterating on the importance of preserving our environment for the protection of mankind and for showing us the various ways how we can develop sustainable goals. You have pointed out how the wildlife is at threat with the decrease of their habitat due to deforestation. Yes, as you say, the students, the youth, and especially the media need to be sensitized regarding the myths and the facts. Thank you so much, Dr. Talukdar. It was a very valuable presentation. Thank you. Next, we have Professor Apurva Kumar Das, who shall be giving a presentation on environmental degradation, a threat to the survival of living beings. Over to Professor Das.
Thank you, Madam. First of all, I would like to thank you, Professor Nilima Bhagavati, for a very kind introduction. Actually, I do not know. I'm much more embarrassed than being happy about my introduction. But nevertheless, I'm very thankful to you and also to Dr. Dhiren Das having a positive words for me. I can understand that this liberal seasoning of praises is because of her own eminence only. That is probably she sees that others also in the same line. Thank you very much, Madam, for this. So coming formally to the talk that I'm talking about, Professor Nilima Bhagavati, International Secretary. General of CTEF and Chairman of CTEF Assam. Dr. Boj, I'm very happy to share because I'm a small fry in front of him, but I'm very happy to share the same platform. Then Dr. Vibhav Talukder, CEO of Aranyak, an organization well known throughout, not only in Assam, through other parts of our country as well. Dr. Pranjit Kumar Sharma from Mangalore College, and the other participants. There are very few. I don't mind to hold my. I don't mind to say it is a bit of a disappointment. I was expecting there will be younger colleagues from colleges and students and participants. My disappointment is not because of organizers' point of view, because I prepared whatever I thought I would speak about is mainly targeting at those younger minds. But never.
I would just like to interrupt here and tell you, you see less participants here because we have not permitted everyone to join here. They are watching over YouTube. Okay. Because of some technical hitch that we faced earlier, we decided to do this. So there are many people watching you now.
Sure, that boosts me. Definitely, that boosts me. Thank you very much for the information. And in my colleagues, participant colleagues in the platform. As I said, I'm very thankful to the organizer for this opportunity to speak to you. This morning I spoke to Nilima Baido once again. I told her that, ma'am, I'm not coming with any presentation per se or for the sake of it. Particularly with full of informations about what are the degradations taking place, where degradation, because I know it's not very difficult for any one of us to find out at a click of a mouse about the whole array of problems that we face, environmental face. So as a teacher who teaches in a PG level, I thought I should be doing what I best do in any class, is to touch upon something very fundamental, I felt is a fundamental. So what is it like? Actually, while thinking about the environmental issue, I more often than not faced with a fundamental question. I call it a fundamental, but I would not really force you to think it as a fundamental, but definitely I propose it as a fundamental question that arises very naturally, not just in my mind. I'm sure any rational being, any with bit of a philosophy would definitely arise these questions, fundamental questions. So it is my intention to ruminate about these questions, which I believe is interface of social psychology and environment studies. By doing so, I hope to get answers rather than answering myself. This is a caveat I must say, because I don't come from some of the disciplines that I would be touching. But I was expecting that there will be a wide range of faculty members from colleges, and though they cannot interact, I'm sure will be there who will be helping me to find out some answers to these questions that arises more often than not into my mind. The core of my questions goes like this, that the environmental degradations and destructions are very well known to all. Now it is not only confined to those scientists, some 50 years back or 30 years back. It is very well known to all. I mean to say the whole humanities, I mean to say. So the destruction, or you call it, and degradations are well known to the world. And the sort of actions that we ought to be doing for mitigating these destructions are also well known to the human being. But yet we are not doing enough. Why is it that? So we face a situation whereby that we know it, but we are not able to do it. It's a fundamental questions I always often face myself with, that why, in spite of knowing what is happening, in spite of knowing what we should be doing, in spite of knowing that why the mechanism, the science, the impact, everything we know it, but yet we are not able to do enough to arrest the degradations or environment or address the challenges of the environment, just like climate change, etc. So, is this a situation, therefore, that is it an irony that has no solutions, that we know it, but we are not able to do it? Is it irony, or it's a paradox, if I may be allowed to use in the platform? Is this a paradox whereby that we find that there is no solutions, and thereby we are destined to be doomed as a human race? In this, I would like to mention one thing, that we more often than not commit a mistake that human being is in danger, or the art is in danger. I once came across one quote by one of the renowned man, but I forgot his name. He rightly said that actually it is not the art who is in danger, it is the human race that is in danger. Art is resilient, it will strike back in some form, whereby the situation goes like this, that we know it. It means, I mean to say, the distractions we are doing it. We should and we can do it. That is, I mean to say, about the mitigation. Then we wish, everyone wishes to have a healthy art. So we know it, we can and we should be doing it. We wish that we have it, but yet we are not doing it. Is there any other examples or parallels in the scientific realms? And I'm sure there are parallels in the socioeconomic realms, but I was trying to look at, is there any, because I just want to see that is it a natural law that everyone will be doing it and finally will be destined to be doomed? Is there a natural law? I was trying to explore it. So in my effort to find out these answers, there are three concepts or jargons, I would say, from different disciplines. One mainly from the physical science or natural science disciplines, another from socioeconomic and human psychological disciplines. Three concepts are of special interest to us. These concepts are entropy, tragedy of commons, and enlightened self-interest. And as of now, I would call it only tragedy of, I would like to call it a tragedy of unregulated common and the enlightened self. These three concepts are of, I find, are of very interest, or should throw some light about my effort in finding up the answers or the dilemma, or what I call it irony. So coming to the first concept is tragedy of common. It is a concept of a physical science. We all know in thermodynamics, there's a concept called, scientific concept called entropy. This concept relates to energy and energy waste and measurable energies. Not going to the typical definitions of thermodynamics for the sake of everyone's appreciations. We can think about the definition of entropy this way, that it is a physical property that is most commonly associated with a state of disorder. That's what very important, these few words. It is commonly associated with state of disorder, randomness, or uncertainty. So in a simplest word, that in the second law of thermodynamics says, which we all should be able to appreciate irrespective of the discipline that we come from, the state of the thermodynamics, the law of thermodynamics is the state, there's a natural tendency of a system. That system, be it my own mind, be it a larger system, but be it a social system, any system we can understand the facets. So there's a natural tendency of a system to degenerate into a more disordered state. So to put it in a simpler word, being disorderly is natural. That is natural tendency of the molecules. Just to cite a small example, that given the chance, the water molecule will not like to be organized and stay together, look like water, and given a chance, they will move away from each other and move around into the legs. Another small example we can find it about the smoke, or when we light this incense sticks, what we call agarbatti, we burn, then we see those smokes, and slowly they disperse, They don't like to be organized, they like to be together. That's the entropy. So there is a natural tendency in the nature to be disorderly. So disorderly is norm, then be orderly. Then that brings to us certain very interesting things. That can disorderly be a sort of desired state? The answer is difficult. There may be exceptions, but the answer is no, in the sense that in a society, we cannot be disorderly. Or even in my own life also, I cannot be disorderly. For a better life, that's what all the spirit of life, a good habit of life tells us to be orderly. Even in economics also, we need to be orderly. In political life also, we needed to be orderly. Now, therefore, we face with a situation that it is a natural tendency to be disorderly, but at the same time, if we needed to be orderly, then what is the way out? We know from our own examples that to be orderly, you have to apply energy. For example, those water molecules, to put them into an orderly, those water gaseous molecules, the water vapor, to put them into an orderly, or put them into a more orderly in an ice form, or it is frozen form, we have to apply energy. So this energy that we will apply in social system, if we can understand, it is in that this is the discipline, or this is an effort that is required to bring everything into order. Now, the meaning of the entropy in social context is often not very clear, and it is obscure, but the concept is of significance for the understanding of the order of disintegration or the magnitude of the disintegration of these systems. And in this case, I'm talking about the entire environment as in systems. So if we bring about the concept of entropy to the understanding of the whole activities of the human being, human philosophy, whether at an individual level or at a community level, this community level may be in corporate, maybe a state, maybe in society, or at any level, has a natural tendency probably to be disorderly. I'm not claiming, I do not know. As I said, I'm not from those disciplines, particularly not from social psychology disciplines, but I was expecting that there will be people to help me out in this regard. I was expecting that we can probably speak better, or we can be more meaningful by participation of the others into my discussion. But nevertheless, that's how I understand that entropy is there, to be disorderly tendency is to be there, whether it is because of our benefit or because of whatever reasons we try to be disorderly. Then the second concept, I thought, ma'am, I hope I don't want to overshoot the time because I don't want to put the organizers into trouble to go much exceeding the time. I'm sure I will keep a tab on my time. The second concept I thought is important to us is the tragedy of commons. Now, tragedy of commons focuses on the conflict between the individuals and collective rationality. Now, I'm sure almost all the participants in this group has the idea of this great essay that was published by Garrett Hadding in the 60s in the ultimate journal called Science. In the scientific disciplines, this journal called Science is highly regarded journal, probably one of the most prestigious journal considers to be. So this concept of tragedy of common is, although he's not original, but he was the one who popularized the concept of tragedy of commons. Now, this tragedy of commons in the original as well as in his own, in the Garrett Hadding's essay, this tragedy of commons can be very briefly understood to be like this, that those like this, that a rancher or rancers, there's the same example he has used. The rancers who use a common ranch land for their cattle, for their own benefit, they would think, they know it very well that if it is overgrazed, that land will be destroyed. But yet, I as a rational being, I as a rancher, I would think that is a common problem. But if I add one more cow into my rancher, I will be benefited. So this is a problem of whether I should think of my individual benefit, or I should think about my collective responsibility. So human being always faced with human being, whether individually or society or corporate or state, always faced with this dilemma of individual interest and in this case, individual may be a person, maybe an industry, maybe a farmer, or even a state. And individuals has access to the shared resources and act in their own interest, leading to degradations. So these examples are everywhere. For example, if I am a Guwahati dweller, throwing my garbage into the road will probably will benefit me because my house will be free of this thing. But my common, the road, the air, all will be suffering. But then I would benefit. I would think that my own individual benefit is much more beneficial than the common beneficiaries. The third concept I brought in, the third concept that I thought will be beneficial will be the enlightened self-interest. It refers to the behavior if a person acts in public interest, is eventually in the interest ultimately served in their own self. Recently, the UN Secretary General also, after visiting many places, has invited the entire world community to act, what is he call it, as an enlightened self-interest. This enlightened self-interest goes like this, that I as a rational human being, if I act for the benefit of the others, the benefit comes to me. In this case, the benefit of the commons, I'm trying to say. If I act for the benefit of the commons, I suppose the benefit will comes to me. So these all three things, when I collectively see, is that then what is it that finally I find that why is it so hard for people to act on the environmental problem? We know it, the scientists know it, we know the degradation, we know the extent, we know the mechanism why it is happening, we know the science, we know the way out, we know the activities what we should be doing it. Everyone agrees it, no one disagrees about the reality and existence of the threat, reality and existence of the different environmental problems. For example, those 4 big environmental problems: biodiversity, climate change, pollutions, and drinking water. Everyone knows it, no one rejects it. Why what is so difficult to act, hard to get people to act together or act on the environmental problem, be it in individual level or be it at highest level of the organization, that is in international or national or state level? Answer is very difficult. I said I haven't had any research on this regard, except my own natural rationality of whatever little rationality I can construct into my mind. So therefore, I cannot have a concrete answer. But I can very well safely speculate that it is combinations of both the dilemma of the individuals and collective rationality, that is the dilemma of the common, and the trade-off between the short-term benefit and the long-term benefit. And this trade-off is a very, very hard trade-off to achieve. For a human being, short-term benefit and long-term benefit is no big deal, but because I know if I grow more foods, more food. Just now, 2 of my previous speakers spoke about that how agriculture is one of the main drivers of the degradations in the environment. But then through agriculture, we benefit. At individual level, at society level. So therefore, we face this dilemma of trade-off, that should we look at this short-term benefit and then long-term benefit. So this trade-off is very hard to achieve. There are long, difficult reality. It's a very complex reality, right from economics to the individual rights to the human rights. These are all interconnected reality are there. So I cannot say the answer, but the speculation, I can safely answer that the answer to the question, why it is so hard to bring people to act on the environmental problems, is that it is the combination of the both dilemma of the individual and the collective rationality, that is tragedy of commons, and the trade-off between the short-term and long-term benefits. Before I finish, I would also like to say I'm being a little abstract in my conclusion. That is, I'm being a little abstract in my conclusion purposely because as I said, my intention is to force the younger faculty members I have with me in this participation to think about, to ponder about, to ruminate about the very simple questions that arises in my mind, and I'm suppose it arises in everyone's minds, that we know it, but what we cannot do it. What is it? Is it something natural? Is it something bound to happen? Then, before I finish, I would like to just mention two small points. This is not really connected to the questions that I say. Is that what does awareness do, awareness campaign? Because as I could see, this is an effort, this whole webinar is an effort of an awareness campaign. And Dr. Bibab Talukdar also highlighted about the awareness. And so does Dr. Rambuj. I was looking at, just as I was looking at trying to look at the philosophy, philosophically the problem of this tragedy of common or problem of this paradox of this environment or irony of the environment, I was looking at that, what is it probably awareness campaign would serve? Then I came across a paper. I'm very sorry to say I forgot it, but if necessary, sometimes I give it. I came across a research paper where it is clearly felt that awareness campaign, it is somehow linked to my ultimate idea that actually until and unless it becomes an immediate threat to the human being keep postponing all these things. For example, my immediate threat is my food, my immediate threat is my job, my immediate threat is my livelihood, my immediate threat is my health of my family, my immediate threat is this. So therefore, I tend to forget. The same thing happens with earthquake. For example, we know Northeast India is an earthquake-prone state regions, but yet we do not construct our building in an earthquake way. That's basically because we know that having a roof on my head of my family is much more immediate concern than thinking about the earthquake, which may or may not take place. We may or may not sort of harm me. The same way, the immediate, if it becomes an immediate concern, then people probably become more proactive to this concern. Same way, more awareness, what does it do? That it becomes a janmat in Hindi or whatever Sanskrit, it becomes a janmat, it becomes the opinion of the mass. Only when it becomes of the opinions of the mass, the urgency that the international agencies and the urgency that scientists are probably talking about will be there probably if only and only it becomes the opinion of the mass, not confined to few academics or not confined to few scientists. So with this, I once again, express my gratitude to the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak to my own colleagues. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Professor Apurva Kumar Das. You have wonderfully, you have pointed out various aspects of environmental degradation. When you were talking about entropy, I remembered a poem that we studied when we were in junior classes, which was the title of which was "Delight in Disorder." how there can be delight in disorder. And, it was really very interesting. So today I'm really reminded of that poem somehow. And yes, you have spoken about the thermodynamics. And as I have found out that the second law of thermodynamics also say that entropy always increases with time. So that is very interesting to find out.
It always increases. Otherwise, it is unstable, madam. That
Yes.
is what, otherwise it is unstable. System is unstable otherwise.
Yeah. And you have also spoken about the human philosophy in the community level. And you were hoping to find, others who would discuss this matter with you. But we really feel that human psychology is really diverse. And therefore, maybe there is some, disorder in our society because of this varied, diversity of our psychology, nature of human beings. Then you have also touched upon the tragedy of commons. That was interesting. That is a kind of, the problem in economics that occurs when individuals neglect the well-being of the society in the pursuit of their personal gain.
The prisoner's dilemma.
Yes, but ultimately it leads to depletion of common resources. And finally, yes, you have also spoken about the enlightened self-interest, which is, it feels like a philosophy of ethics, which the state of persons who act to further the interest of others, which is ultimately to serve their own self-interest. But so your talk was really very interesting, and I hope there will be some questions from the participants. And thank you so much for being with us today.
It's my pleasure, ma'am.
Dr. Taluk, yes, Dr. Apurva Kumar Das. Now, to move on with the agenda, it is time for some short interactive session with all the resource persons. The participants may now ask questions to the specific resource persons, and please mention who the question is addressed to so that the respective resource persons may take the questions. I also request Dr. Archana Bhattacharjee to assist me in getting the questions from the chat box so that we do not miss any question. So now...
Actually, Mandira, the problem is that we have only countable participants here with any of their doubts or queries for any one of the resource person, but it would have been nice, yes, to have included all. But again, due to the technical hitch, we had to take these steps from previous experiences. But if after listening on YouTube or Facebook live stream, if our CTEF live members have any questions for you, we will encourage them to, place their questions in the group, in a group page, and we'll forward it to you. Not just to you, but to the other resource persons also. And I hope you won't mind, because somehow or the other, that part slipped our mind, like during the interactions, we'll be needing more participants, to come up with their views, their queries, or whatever. Now, amongst us, there are few. So if anybody has any question, Nilima ma'am, if you have anything, any observations to make, or others also, the most welcome. Ma'am, you're muted. Ma'am, you're muted.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you, Archana. Indeed, it was a very interesting and enriching session. We learned a lot. We learned a lot from all the resource persons. Now, the same thing also, something it ponders in a mind, like coming, as I am from the field of education and psychology, like in the national education policy, the more and more suggestions are being requested to send it to the MHRD about the, upgrading the curriculum, school curriculum, etc., etc. But the thing which I have seen that not very much of focus on environmental, though environmental education is what is happening. So these are some of the, awareness which we should throw light while meeting the students either in the institutions or either in some social gatherings, because the more we can create, that will be best. Either it is the NGO like they are doing, Aranyak is doing, either it is our organization, CTEF. In fact, we are now, when I'm hearing you, I'm thinking that this platform, which all of you have spoken so nicely, I will take it to the schools now. I will take it to the schools and colleges now, because we want to sort of aware the present generation what is happening. The present generation is more in threat, is to say. So this is actually, while listening, I was feeling in my mind and my heart that we have to be now very careful, and we have to be aware about our future of our children, not our children, but all the children around. So this is what, and definitely from CTEF Assam, I promise you, I will take you to the schools and colleges, to the institutions, to make it more reachable to all the students, to make it more reachable to the students, and to get aware. Even out of 10, even say 4 get aware, that is, I think that will be quite a good thing for us. So this is what is my feeling after hearing this wonderful session. And I thank you, all the resource persons, for enlightening us with so much of data, so much of facts, and so much of thinking, the insightful mind. We should question ourselves that what is happening, we are not, why we are not doing anything, and how we can do. So this was my observation, in fact, Archana.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. In fact, being a teacher, I also often think about it. But as Dr. Das has just pointed out, sometimes what happens, we give more importance to things which matter to us immediately.
Yes.
And we prioritize and put those things in front, and other things which have actually more impact in the future, we make it secondary. So that is where lies a problem. And we procrastinate, we put off things. We'll do it later because it is not disastrous at this point of time. And another thing which I personally feel, and I have seen, that yes, environment was included in the school curriculum, in the college and the high secondary level also, as a subject to create awareness. Well, it was okay at that point of time. That was just a beginning. But later on, they should have added more to it to make it slightly different, because the first step was the creating of the awareness. Later on, they should have included a practical part in which the students are expected to go out to the community, go out to the grassroots. So this practical part would have actually aroused the interest when they see things in person. Instead of just reading the books and, collecting a lot of theoretical jargon, it would be more fruitful when they are actually in the fields, observing, learning, and that has a greater impact. So this is the need of the hour. If we have to start at the school level, I'm sure the NEP is going to give more importance to that. We are hoping. But at the same time, the responsibility lies with us teachers also. And as Nilima ma'am has so rightly pointed out, that yes, all of us can take over that responsibility in our own way, in whatever capacity we can, in our own area. We need to create awareness. And as teachers, we take that message to the schools, and from the schools to the college, to the university, to the society, or wherever possible. So in that way, at least some change, some transformation will be brought about. And we need to give importance to that, make it our first priority. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all the resource person. We are indeed lucky to have all of you with us today. And I don't know about others, I personally feel I have learned a lot. You have given me plenty of food for thought. And I'm sure the others have done too. And they will be definitely, sharing their insights with us. The CTEF live members will be sharing their insights with us in a group page. And we'll try to pass on the queries, if any, to you over email. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now on that interesting note, we'd like to wind up today's webinar. And now I request Dr. Tribeni Saikia Assistant Secretary, CTEF Assam, to propose the words of gratitude. Over to Tribeni Saikia.
Please unmute. Please unmute. Yes.
Namaskar. A very good evening to one and all present in the platform. Professor Nilima Bhagavati Madam, our distinguished resource persons, Dr. Ram Ghosh Sir, Dr. Bivas Kumar Talukdar Sir, Dr. Apurva Kumar Das Sir, and all the dignitaries present in the platform. First of all, I would like to offer my thankful gratitude to Professor Nilima Bhagavati Madam, Chairperson, CTEF Assam and International Secretary General CTEF, for giving a warm welcome speech and also introducing the concept of CTEF in front of the members of the webinar. Then I would like to offer my thankful gratitude to Dr. Jahnovi Lohkar Borua Madam, Secretary CTEF, for speaking about the concept note about the main theme of the webinar. After that, I would like to offer my thankful gratitude to Archana Bhagavati Madam, Bhattacharya Madam, for formally introducing the distinguished speakers. Then I would like to take the opportunity for offering my thankful gratitude to Dr. Ram Ghosh Sir for discussing the issues related to environmental degradation and environmental upliftment. After that, I would like to offer my thankful gratitude to Dr. Bivas Kumar Talukdar Sir for giving us an enlightening discussion about the sustainable goals, sustainable mindset, maintaining ecological balance, on importance on environmental education, etc. After that, I would like to offer my gratitude to Dr. Apurva Kumar Das Sir for enlightening us on the gap between to know and to do, the tragedy of commons, enlightened self-interest, dilemma between short-term and long-term benefit, thermodynamics, human philosophy, and human psychology, and its importance on environmental issues. Then I would like to offer my gratitude to Dr. Mandira Bodole Madam for nicely coordinating the webinar, and to Gratia Technology for providing technological support. With these words, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saikia, for the detailed note of appreciation. We thank you too, Tribeni, for your valuable contribution to the success of this webinar. We shall now all rise for the national anthem to mark the closure of the webinar. Over to Gratia Technology for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
thanking all of you once again. I wish you a pleasant evening ahead. Stay healthy, stay safe.